Basketball is a very physical sport, and we all know injuries are a part of the game. NBA players play an 82-game regular season in the span of just under 6 months, and that's excluding the playoffs. Over the years in the NBA, we have unfortunately seen many career-ending injuries, and in this video, I'm going to be going over the greatest NBA careers ruined by injuries. Cue the intro. Jay Williams. Most of you probably know Jay Williams as an analyst on NBA on ESPN and First Take, but did you guys know that he was the second overall pick in the 2002 NBA draft? Yes, Jay Williams was a star in college, leading Duke to the national championship in 2001, and winning National College Player of the Year in 2001 and 2002. All of this leading him to be drafted second overall in the 2002 NBA draft. And he had a decent rookie season. As a 21-year-old point guard, he put up 9 points and 5 assists per game in the 75 games he played, which was not the best and not the worst. However though, Jay Williams would never play an NBA game ever again. As on June 19, 2003, Jay Williams was riding his motorcycle at night in the north side of Chicago, and the NBA got some horrific news. Williams crashed into a streetlight at a high speed with no helmet and no license as well. Williams fractured his pelvis and tore 3 ligaments in his left knee. This injury was devastating for him and the Bulls, as Williams violated a term in his contract where he wasn't even allowed to ride a motorcycle. The Bulls drafted Kirk Hinrich months later in the 2003 draft, knowing Williams had a long recovery ahead of him. Williams would never return to NBA basketball and retired the following year in 2004. Very devastating story, but Jay Williams is doing better than ever, being one of the main faces at NBA on ESPN. Derrick Rose. I don't think I need to go into too much detail about Derrick Rose's history. Number 1 overall pick in 2008, youngest MVP in NBA history at 22 years old, but he's another player whose career has been completely altered by injuries. In the first round of the 2012 playoffs, Rose's Bulls faced off against the Philadelphia 76ers, and this was a 1-8 matchup, so it was expected for the Bulls to walk through the Sixers. But with just under 90 seconds to play in Game 1 where the Bulls had a 12-point lead, Derrick Rose did a hop step, turned his knee, and tore his ACL on his left knee. The crowd went silent, with everyone in disbelief. The Bulls would go on to lose that series in 6 games, and Derrick Rose wouldn't return to the court until the 2013-14 season. Just 10 games into the season, Rose would tear his meniscus and miss the remainder of the season again. Rose did return the following season playing 51 games, but was clearly not the same player he used to be with all those injuries. Derrick Rose would never make an All-Star team again, but he is still going on strong in the NBA today, being a part of the Memphis Grizzlies where he went to college. Rose is clearly not the same player he used to be, but he still shows glimpses of what he was able to do back in his MVP days and is still in the league 12 years after his horrific injury. Brandon Roy. Now here is one of the players you knew would be on this list. Brandon Roy was drafted 6th overall by the Minnesota Timberwolves in 2006, but was immediately traded to the Trailblazers on draft night. Roy took no time to show off his talent, averaging 17 points per game in his rookie season, taking home the Rookie of the Year award. He would follow up the next 3 seasons averaging 20 points per game, picking up 3 All-Star appearances and 2 All-NBA teams. By 2010, it was known by the league that Roy was a star, and potentially a future superstar. But in December of 2010, Roy's knees were starting to take a toll on him. Roy's knees were bothering him since college due to a lack of cartilage. And in December 2010, Roy would be ruled out indefinitely due to the pain in his knees. He did go through arthroscopic surgery in both his knees and came back later that season, but he was not the same player he was before. He was very in and out of the lineup and only put up 12 points per game. He retired at the age of 26 after the playoffs in 2011, but he did return for a brief stint in 2012-13 with the Minnesota Timberwolves, the team that drafted him. But he would only play 5 games until his knees couldn't take the strain anymore, and he retired again and hasn't played an NBA game since. Roy was one hell of a player whose career was destroyed by injuries, and what if Brandon Roy never got hurt? The NBA could have been looking a lot different. Who knows? Greg Oden. Another former Trailblazer and a teammate of Brandon Roy. Greg Oden was the number 1 overall pick in the 2007 NBA draft, but he would only play a total of 105 NBA games in his career. Greg Oden was supposed to be the next Shaquille O'Neal of the NBA, but what went wrong for him to be considered one of the biggest busts of all time? Well, it started before he even made his NBA debut. In September of 2007, Oden underwent microfracture surgery on his right knee, which resulted in him missing the entire 2007 and 8 season. He did come back in the 2008 and 9 season, playing 61 games, only averaging 9 points per game though. In the 2009 and 10 season, Oden was showing big signs of improvement, putting up 11 points, 8 boards, and 2 blocks per game. But on December 5th, 2009, Oden would fracture his left patella and miss the remainder of the season after only playing 21 games. Oden would miss the next 3 seasons due to knee injuries and eventually got cut from the Blazers. He did have one more stint with Miami in 2014, but only played 23 games with them, and we have never seen Oden play another NBA game since. Just like Brandon Roy, another career destroyed by injuries. And what if Oden and Roy never got hurt, and we saw a big three of LaMarcus Aldridge, Brandon Roy, and Greg Oden? Could have been a really sick big three, but injuries, man. Michael Redd. One of the more forgotten players in the NBA. Michael Redd was drafted by the Milwaukee Bucks 43rd overall in 2000, and as expected with second round picks, he didn't have that much of a role in his early years. But the 6'6" shooting guard out of Ohio State consistently got better each and every year. And he even made the All-Star team and All-NBA third team in 2004, putting up 22 points per game. The next summer in 2005, he signed a 6-year, $91 million contract to stay with the Milwaukee Bucks when he was rumored to go to the Cavs and team up with a young LeBron James. That did not happen though, and Redd decided to keep putting up buckets in Milwaukee. Redd would average over 20 points per game every year from 2004 to 2009, but his Bucks team never got the right pieces to build a serious contender around him. And on January 24th, 2009, a game against the Sacramento Kings, the Bucks and Redd got terrible news. Redd would tear his ACL and MCL in his left knee and be ruled out for the remainder of the season. Redd would return the very next season, but in just 18 games, he would re-injure the same knee, tearing his ACL and MCL again. Redd would return the following season, but only play in 10 games and average just 4 points per game. It was clear his injuries got the best of him, and what a shame that was, as he had the potential to be one of the best shooting guards in the 2000s. Gilbert Arenas. Another player who had the potential to be one of the best of his generation. Arenas was drafted 31st overall by the Golden State Warriors in 2001, and Gilbert was not happy being a second round pick. Arenas chose to wear the number 0 to signify the number of minutes experts thought he would play. But Arenas took little to no time to show his offensive talent, picking up Most Improved Player of the Year in just his second season after putting up 18 points per game and 6 assists, compared to his 11 points and 3 assists per game in his rookie season. Arenas was a restricted free agent in 2003, and he ended up signing with the Washington Wizards for 6 years, $60 million after the Warriors couldn't match the offer due to their salary cap. In Washington was where Gilbert Arenas made a name for himself. Arenas was dealing with an abdominal injury in his first year in Washington, which limited him all year. But the very next season in 2004 and 5, Gilbert made his first All-Star appearance and All-NBA team, putting up 25 points per game with 5 assists. He followed it up with 2 more All-Star and All-NBA appearances, including averaging 29 points per game in 2006. But near the end of the 2007 season, Arenas would tear his MCL against the Charlotte Bobcats when Gerald Wallace fell into him after a layup, and Arenas would miss the rest of the season and the playoffs. He came back in April of 2008, but was on a minutes restriction, and he was still a solid player, putting up 20 points per game, but his injury was still bothering him. He would sit out again and only play 2 games in the 2008-9 season. He did come back the following year in 2009 and 10, but had a firearm incident that I will go into further detail in another video. But he would get suspended, bounce around the Magic and Grizzlies, and be out of the league at just 30 years old in 2012. Arenas could have been an all-time point guard with his offensive talent and shooting, but injuries really shortened Agent Zero's prime, and what a shame that was. Penny Hardaway. Many of us remember Penny Hardaway as Shaq's all-star point guard teammate when he was in Orlando, but did you know that Hardaway was actually drafted 3rd overall by the Golden State Warriors? And got traded to the Orlando Magic for Chris Webber, who was the number 1 overall pick in 1993. Not that Penny and Shaq was a bad duo, but Shaq and Chris Webber could have been very interesting. But back to Penny. Hardaway took no time to show off his talent in the NBA, averaging 16 points per game, 2 steals, and 6 assists in just his rookie season. He would make 4 straight All-Star appearances the next 4 seasons, including a finals run in 1995 in which they lost to the Houston Rockets. The Magic decided to keep Penny over Shaq in 1996 as the two didn't get along so well and Shaq signed with the Lakers. But in 1996, the injury bug would hit Penny, as he was dealing with a serious knee injury and had to go through surgery that summer. He came back the following season as the Magic's franchise player without Shaq, still putting up 20 points per game. But the following season in 97-98, Penny would encounter another knee injury and only play in 19 games that season. He came back in the lockout season in 99 and played all 50 games, but he had lost a lot of his athleticism and was clearly a shell of himself. Penny ended up getting traded to the Phoenix Suns in 1999 to pair up with the all-star point guard Jason Kidd. But in 2000, Hardaway would go through 2 knee surgeries and only play in 4 games. We really never got to see the duo of them two really play at all, and Jason Kidd went off to the New Jersey Nets. Penny would play up until the 2008 season, but he never averaged over 12 points per game since his surgery with the Suns in 2000. Penny could have been one of the greatest point guards in the 90s and 2000s, as he was 6'7" and made 4 straight All-Star teams. But injuries got the best of him, and we never got to see him healthy after his Magic stint. Grant Hill. When Grant Hill first entered the NBA, he was already a star. Hill was drafted by the Detroit Pistons 3rd overall in 1994, and he won Rookie of the Year along with Jason Kidd, putting up 20 points, 6 boards, and 2 steals per game. Hill would play 5 more seasons with the Pistons, picking up an All-Star nod every year besides the 99 lockout season. Hill was a superstar in the making, as he was one of the best two-way forwards this game has seen. In 2000, Hill was a restricted free agent, and the Pistons decided to sign Hill to a 7-year, $92.8 million contract, but trade him in a sign-in trade to the Orlando Magic to team up with superstar Tracy McGrady. This signing was huge, as the Magic were looking to contend after letting Shaq leave to the Lakers just a few seasons ago. But in just his first year in the land of Disney, Hill would only play 4 games in 2000 and 2001 due to ankle injuries, 14 games the next year, and 29 games the following year, all due to ankle injuries. Hill would miss the entire 2003-04 season due to ankle surgery, which almost ended his career due to an infection called MRSA, which is a deadly strain of staph infection. Hill would make it through all of that adversity and return in the 2004-05 season. He came back after all those injuries, not the same player as he used to be, but he still put up 20 points per game and picked up another All-Star nod. And he still managed to play 8 more seasons, including all 82 games in the 2008-09 season. He retired at the age of 40 in 2013, but to even come back after all those injuries and still play almost 10 more seasons was truly incredible. Hill is one of the NBA's biggest what-ifs, as he had all the potential in the world while he was in Detroit, but he finished his career strong and earned a spot in the Basketball Hall of Fame in 2018. Now moving on to his teammate in Orlando, Tracy McGrady. I don't think I need to go into too much detail about how good Tracy McGrady was, as he was drawing comparisons to Kobe Bryant during his prime. But he was another potential all-time great whose career was derailed by injuries. T-Mac had a fairly healthy career with the Raptors and the Magic, but the 2005 and 6 season was where T-Mac's injuries were starting to get to him. McGrady was still a hell of a player, averaging 24 points per game alongside Yao Ming, but he only played 47 games in the 2005 and 6 regular season due to back spasms, and his Rockets missed the playoffs. T-Mac would continue to play at an all-star level, averaging 20 plus each season. But in the 2008 and 9 season, McGrady would have surgery on his shoulder and his knee and only play 35 games, putting up just 15 points per game. And at just 30 years old in 2010, T-Mac was only averaging 8 points per game and got traded from Houston to the New York Knicks. T-Mac would bounce from team to team and be out of the league at just 33 years old in 2013. It's really a shame how T-Mac's prime was cut short from us, as he really had the potential to be an all-time great. But he still made his way into the Basketball Hall of Fame and is one of the most beloved players from his era. Now some honorable mentions, as I didn't want to leave these guys off the list. First, we got Isaiah Thomas. Only standing at just 5'9", IT is undoubtedly the best player at that size of all time in the NBA, as he put up 29 points per game in 2017, but the hip injury he dealt with that season really hurt his career, and he never fully recovered from it. Next, we got Amari Stoudemire. Amari did deal with knee injuries early in his career with Phoenix, but he was able to recover and get back to his all-star level. But when he was with the Knicks from 2012 and after, Amari was dealing with back and knee injuries, which really put an end to his career, as he retired from the NBA in 2016 at just 33 years old. Now our last entry on this list, the great Yao Ming. The 7'6" giant from China had all the potential in the world coming into the NBA, as not only was he 7'6", but he had a jump shot as well. Yao was taken first overall by the Rockets in 2002, and he made an immediate impact, playing all 82 games, putting up 13 points and 8 boards per game, plus making the All-Star team in his rookie season. After missing only 2 out of his first 246 NBA games, injuries started to plague Yao's career. In the 2005 and 6 season, Yao injured his big toe and missed 21 games, and broke his foot at the end of the season, which required surgery. The next season, he only played 47 games due to injuring his knee. Yao would be healthy the next couple of seasons, but in 2009 and 10, he missed the entire year due to a broken left foot. He only played 5 games in the 2011 season until he had to call it a career due to his foot injuries. Yao was a very tall man, standing at 7'6", and big men with feet injuries tend to be common as they're just too big and tall, which leaves a lot of weight on their feet. Yao called it a career at just 30 years old, but he had a legendary career and got to top it off with not only making the Basketball Hall of Fame, but being one of the most beloved NBA players of all time. Thank you guys so much if you made it to the end of this video. If there's any other players you think should have made this list, drop it in the comments below. Thank you guys, and I will see you in the next one.